بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا أقسم بهذا البلد وأنت حل بهذا البلد ووالد وما ولد لقد خلقنا الإنسان في كبد أيحسب أن لن يقدر عليه أحد يقول أهلكت مالا لبدا أيحسب أن لم يره أحد ألم نجعل له عينين ولسانا وشفتين وهديناه النجدين فلاقتحم العقبة وما أدراك ما العقبة فك رقبة أو إطعام في يوم ذي مسغبة يتيما ذا مقربة أو مسكينا ذا متربة ثم كان من الذين آمنوا وتواصوا بالصبر وتواصوا بالمرحمة أولئك أصحاب الميمنة والذين كفروا بآياتنا هم أصحاب المشأمة عليهم نار مؤصدة.
صدق الله العظيم. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن سيدنا محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. The theme of Surah Al-Balad is actually described to us the journey of human being, of every one of us in this life. And this journey is characterized by the struggle and the moral choices that we have. So basically the surah tells us that every person will face a decision to make. You're almost in the bottom of a mountain and there is two trails that you're going, which one you are going to take. One of them will be a path which is difficult, but it is a path of virtue and compassion, and the other path there will be a path of easy, which is selfishness and neglect, ignoring Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And therefore the surah starts with three oaths. And we said when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make an oath in the beginning of the surah, the objective of the oath is to reinforce the message of the surah, to emphasize it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لا أقسم بهذا البلد وأنت حل بهذا البلد ووالد وما ولد. These are three oaths. The first one, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, I swear by the city. What city? And then the reference here, then let us look at the second one. وَأَنْتَ حِلٌّ بِهَذَا الْبَلَدِ. And you are a lawful resident of this city. You are lawfully present in this city. Who is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about? Think of the theme. The theme is about the struggle that you know, this life is a life of struggle. Who is the best person to use to demonstrate this? Is the most beloved person to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is he struggling or not struggling? Then here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the city of Mecca, which is a sacred city, is supposed to be protected. Nobody can get hurt in it or get harmed with it. And then and you live here, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You live in that city and you struggled. And then وَوَالِدٍ وَمَا وَلَدٍ, and this to say that all humanity are the same. Because all of the father from Adam until the end of the time, all of his offspring will fall in this, under this guidance. That means you will, wherever you live, there will always going to be struggle. If the Prophet ﷺ, who is most beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, lived in the most sacred city and still struggled, then why you would be surprised that you are not struggling? But this is the theme of the surah and the emphasis of the surah, and therefore following directly in it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described this, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ, that we have created man to live in a state of hardship. This is what your role here. The comfort is in the hereafter, not in this life. But some people, you know, despite this reality of it, Some people have this false sense of self-sufficiency and arrogance. So then Allah described this type of group of people. أَيَحْسَبُ أَنْ لَنْ يَقْدِرَ عَلَيْهِ أَحَدٌ. Some people will think, oh, they are self-sufficient. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, does he think that nobody has power over him? You know, يقول أهلكت مالا لبدا. He says, I have squandered great wealth. This squandered great wealth is that I am so wealthy that money has no value for me, and therefore I can waste the money. أيحسب أن لم يره أحد. Does he think that nobody sees him? Then, so that's what comes in. That's the choice. Yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, this person describe his wealth, and they claim his wealth, and they claim his power that nobody can, have power over him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, does he think nobody has power over him? Or nobody, does not see what he is doing in this place? So here is a blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives to that person, but look how he is using it. Now, having seeking power and wealth, it is not something discouraged in Islam. In fact, it's encouraged in Islam, But that's how you use the power and the wealth. Do you use the power and the wealth when Allah bless you with power and wealth, and do it with arrogance and basically hurting other people, or you treat the power and wealth and you treat it with humility and then compassion? That is the issue. That is the way it is. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned to say, okay, you have all of these things that you claim you have, and you're self-sufficient because of them. But let me tell you about things that I have given to you for free and you didn't pay for it. What is the two things that everybody, أَلَمْ نَجْعَلْ لَهُ عَيْنَيْن وَلِسَانًا? Does this person who feels he's self-sufficient, didn't we give him eyes and we give him tongue and the two lips? So here, this is actually why we miss the powerful, system in Islam to make people very intelligent. Here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes and make a statement. أَلَمْ نَجْعَلْ عَيْنَيْنِ وَلِسَانًا وَشَفَتَيْنِ. Skip it, go through it and pass through. But you should stop and say, okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us with eyes. How do we see with it? How do we see with the eyes? It's just having the eyes? Or is a very complicated system that Allah have created in us to allow us to see? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, we have created you with tongue and two lips so you can speak and communicate your whatever issues or views or idea you have in your mind. Do we know how to speak? This is a great blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do we understand them? So if you really teaching, a child or a youth the Quran and they come to this verse, you should stop and tell him, go and search, how do we see what Allah have created in us to allow us to see? And then how do we speak? How I can, where is the idea comes from? Where does it go? Do we just directly, spit words this way? And that is how the person can really. And if you look, how do you see there is Muslim, why early Muslim developed the civilization? Because of this, they can stop in a word like this, and somebody said, how do we see? And spend his time to figure out how we see. Who did it? Ibn al-Haytham. Ibn al-Haytham, that, he used his name in English, Al-Layl. And if you look to Ibn al-Haytham, he studied how we see. And he was the one who actually derived the right way. What is a mechanism that we see with? And based on it, he developed the science of optics. And he made the first camera. Yeah. Now, if this person was not a religious person, or he was just, a secular person, by studying, the vision and the eye? No, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a blessing, and a way to recognize the blessing is to study the details of the blessing and the application of it. It's amazing, actually, that Ibn al-Haytham was a mathematician, theologian, engineer, In fact, he developed this concept, study the eye, when he was in home arrest, house arrest. Why he was in house arrest during the Fatimite times? Because he was an engineer. So the Khalifa at that time, or whoever the leader in Egypt, you know, he wants him to build the high dam, the dam in the Nile, so they can stop with it. Because, you know, in Egypt, the flood comes in, flood the land, and then if there is a drought, there is no water. You know, and you know the story of Sayyidina Yusuf. So he wants him to build a dam so he can put a lake and then store, which we have now a dam, you know, that built, you know, in the late 60s. So he wants it. So the guy, he said, I cannot build it because there are so many people who's going to die, you know, in building it, because you have to cross the Nile at that time, and how are you going to connect it when the water is heavy, water is coming? He said, it's going to die. So the guy said, oh, you don't want to help me? He put him in a home arrest, in house arrest. So during that time, he used to ask the guard for him to get from him the head of a cow. Go to the slaughterhouse and buy a head of a cow for him. And no, this is a stupid guy, you know, why he wants the head of a cow. And what he was doing, he was dissecting the eye and the connection to the brain to see how he sees. I mean, that is really, you know, this, and he is the one, if you look to even now, the father of, you know, basically research or scientific methodology. He was the one who developed it. You know, that you start with observation, then you go hypothesis, and you go for collect the data, then you check the data, and so on. The process, the 7 steps. He is the one who developed. And the way we decided, you know, the direction of the Qibla, he is the one developed the mathematics for it, the methodology, the analytical way for it. Is amazing part if you look to what those people write. You know, they write in religion, they write in science. He wrote a book about the influence, let me read it, the proper name for the influence of treatise in the influence of music melodies on the souls of animals. He wants to know how it can increase the production of milk from the animals. Can the music, you know, if I run music for the animal, would they produce more milk? They will become more healthy. He wrote a book on it, you know, on this one here. So anyway, this is the type of things, you know, how do you know that your son would not be this great scientist if you don't keep each time you come a blessing, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tell us something, you direct him to, how about the tongue and the mouth, frankly? You know, I talked about this so many times about how you speak. Where is the idea comes from? You know, and I told you, I discussed this before when I said, if you look in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about what Musa said, what Pharaoh said about this in very eloquent Arabic. None of them spoke Arabic. So how did Allah translate to us or converted their whatever, Pharaoh used to speak ancient Egyptian, you know, Moses used to speak Hebrew and ancient Egyptian. You know, Sayyidina Isa used to speak Arabic, Ibrahim used to speak other language, everyone speak other language. So how Allah did it? You know, did he convert like translate us word to word? If you understand how we speak, then you will figure out how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did. And I think we discussed it before, you know. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that now set the stage now for also the idea. Oh, that's Ibn al-Haytham, you know, picture of it. Oh, this is okay. This is how the tongues and the lips, you have seen this, how the process, how do you speak when you have an idea in your brain. That idea comes from that prefrontal, prefrontal cortex. That's what the thought comes in. And then and this thought comes as electrical signal is independent of the language. And to go to the Broca's area, which translate the electrical signal into a language, to a meaning. And then go to another motor cortex to start driving your mouth and your tongue to speak and your lungs so you can express the words. So when we said, you know, the way Allah did it, and, you know, Allahu A'lam, but this could be the most logical way that Allah did not translate their words. He picked the signal that came from their prefrontal cortex because it's independent of the language, the thought they want to express. whether they want, spoke it in any language. If you pick it up, that will be it. So anyway, we talked about this subject before when I said how you can translate the Quran, without. So, and then Allah subhanahu comes in and said, okay, now you will have وَهَدَيْنَاهُ النَّجْدَيْنِ. And we show him, we show man, we show human, these two clear bases. Najdain actually means it is a trait, it's a trails that are visible in a fork and going up. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, فَلَقْتَحَمَ الْعَقَبَةِ. Talk about now the one who is going to take the hard pass, the steep pass, the heavy trail, the trail that's difficult to go. He said, shouldn't he take the trail? Because the trail, the difficult trail is a trail of righteousness. If you live in humility and consciousness and righteousness and obedience for Allah, yes, you will face some difficulties. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, okay, if you want to pass this trail at ease, to make it, although it is difficult to everybody else when you look at it, but to make it ease, then there is certain attributes you have to do for yourself. What you should do, yet couldn't he attempt to go in that steep pass? If he goes in, what he need to be equipped is فك رقبة أو إطعام في يوم ذي مسغبة يتيما ذا مقربة أو مسكينا ذا متربة ثم كان من الذين آمنوا وتواصوا بالصبر وتواصوا بالرحمة. So what do? You want to untie the neck. Untie the neck is an expression for liberating everyone who is oppressed. Whoever this oppressed physically in the past to be slavery, could be oppressed because of a debt that he has, oppressed from he was in jail unjustly. So all of that means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if you want your path or righteousness to be easy, then you have to look for those people who are oppressed and help them and try to liberate them from it. The second one, أو إطعام في يوم ذي مسغبة, then feed the people in the time of hunger. And then the third one, and then be one of those believers and invite people وتواصوا بالصبر وتواصوا بالرحمة, and urge each other with patience and compassion. If you do this, if you do these three things, which is helping people, feeding the people who are hungry, then always guide each other and urge each other for with patience and then compassion, then you are one of those people who are successful. أولئك أصحاب الميمنة. That you are one of those people of the right. And of those people of the right are people, obviously, the companion of the right. And with other ayat, we're talking أصحاب الميمنة ما أصحاب الميمنة. So these are the people who have this moral character and therefore will be able to go to this path. Now, there is another group, obviously, is not going to do this. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا بِآيَاتِنَا, hum ashab al-masham. But people who deny and reject our revelation, then they are all the people of the left, or the left-hand side. And then alayhim narun musada, upon them there is fire that will envelop them with closed gates. So this is, if you look to this surah, it actually tells us one, life is not easy, but you can make it. The life of righteousness is not easy, but you can make it easy for yourself by doing certain things, by helping basically other people, and be always joined together in advising each other with patience and compassion. So inshallah, we'll go Surat al-Shams now.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والشمس وضحاها والقمر إذا تلاها والنهار إذا جلاها والليل إذا يغشاها والسماء وما بناها والأرض وما طحاها ونفس وما سواها فألهمها فجورها وتقواها قد أفلح من زكاها وقد خاب من دساها كذبت ثمود بطغواها إذ انبعث أشقاها فقال لهم رسول الله ناقة الله وسقياها فكذبوه فعقروها فدمدم عليهم ربهم بذنبهم فسواها ولا يخاف عقباها.
Now, you find out in Juz Amma that the different surah actually sometimes they connected with each other. So here in this Surah Al-Shams, the emphasis on it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have equipped every soul, every person, every human being with that internal compass, which ability to differentiate between what is good and what's bad, what's right and what's wrong, what's moral and what's immoral. Everyone has this, even without receiving revelation. And this is why you find out this morality issues is common among all people, different cultures. And Allah emphasized this, and He said, وَنَفْسٍ وَمَا سَوَّاهَا فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا, that Allah have perfected your soul and then guided him or inspired them with either rebellion or piety, with the good or the bad. Now, as you said, the surah start also with 5 oaths. And anytime I said that when you have the oath is supposed to enforce the idea of the surah or the theme of the surah. So what is these oaths? The oaths is وَالشَّمْسِ وَضُحَاهَا, by the sun and its brightness. And if you look to this, وَالشَّمْسِ وَضُحَاهَا, there's 2 oaths here, by the sun and then by also the radiant light that comes from the sun. And so it indicates that there is a connection between the brightness of the sun and also the guidance of your soul. وَالْقَمَرِ إِذَا تَلَاهَا, and then the moon as it follows it. And here, the moon role is what? To reflect the light from the sun. So the same thing, if you are a righteous person, you're supposed to reflect the guidance that Allah guided to you for. So you have that reflection that comes out of you from your behavior. People can claim they are righteous from here until the end of time. They can pray all the time. They can fast. But if I don't see the impact on their character, then it's whatever they do is worthless. Worthless to me, and Allah doesn't benefit from it, and worthless to them also. So basically, whatever guidance you get, it has to be reflected in your character, projected, like as the moon reflects the light of the sun. وَالنَّهَارِ إِذَا جَلَّاهَا, and by the day it reveals the sun. Now this one, here is also something that's counterintuitive. Is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say that the day reveals the sun. Is the day reveals the sun or the sun reveals the day? For us, which one reveals what? We think that the sun reveals the day, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, no, it is the day that reveals the sun. And we know, if you ask your son or your daughter, what does it mean? And the reason why, because actually the day revealed the sun, because if you go above the Earth's atmosphere and go closer to the sun, it is very dark. It's pitch dark. All of the universe is dark. But when the Earth's atmosphere is the one shows us the sun. So it is the day when the Earth moves, that's when you see the sun. It is not the sun that shows us the day. No, we are the one who sees the sun. So you find out it is a very, is a challenging, but it's sometimes if you pass it through, then you don't actually study. And I'm saying, why I'm emphasizing this point, frankly, because 5 years from now, none of the kids who are in school today will find jobs unless they have 2 things. One, they can be able to learn anything quickly, and they have to adapt. Because frankly, with the emphasis now in this AI, the artificial intelligence, and now modification of it, a lot of the jobs that you think you're so proud to have, they will not be there. If people wants to go to the medical school, well, all of the medical school will be done by AI. You can do it. Surgery will be done by AI, by robots, or intelligent robots. Diagnosis, analysis. People now, you take a radiologist doesn't know. When you put the radiology, the picture in front of a machine, and AI directly interpreted far better than anything. So you think that this have financial sectors all done by is going to be done. Many jobs will be done this way. So the only person who is going to succeed is the one who really can learn quickly and adapt. And all what the Quran, when I said, look at this, here is your study. You keep looking for different subject and learn a new subject. And therefore your brain will be tuned to be able to learn quickly from different things. He does not just an observer, he actually analyst in this regard. That's why I keep emphasizing to you, particularly, as I said, for high school kids, here you really have to emphasize this, because otherwise they graduate and they'll find no job. So what is the value then? Okay. Then وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَاهَا. And then we said وَالنَّهَارِ إِذَا جَلَّاهَا وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَاهَا. And by the night, and then how it, and actually, this is also the night as it concealed it. And here is the night is the one concealed the sun. Now, if you really think seriously about it, what is this? How the night concealed the sun? Because we think always of light. The sun is light. How the night can conceal it? And now people now recognize that what they call that. Everybody study light. Everybody know how to create light, but can anybody create darkness? And now people say, the dark matter, the universe has 90% of it is dark matter now. That dark is a matter too, as much as light made of photons and so on is a matter, its darkness is a matter too. So it can conceal the light, in that regard. وَالسَّمَاءِ وَمَا بَنَاهَا. And then by the sky, how it was built, and the earth, how Allah spread it. وَالْأَرْضِ وَمَا طَحَاهَا, how spread it out, So these oaths, as I said, it's one, Allah subhanahu will make an oath, he will make an oath with one of his creation that's great. And therefore, if Allah tell you, this is my creation, I'm making an oath with this creation, because you only make an oath with something great. That's why we only make an oath with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the greatest thing. But Allah make an oath with the best of his creation. So in this case, you better study this creation. Then after the oaths, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes in with the one part, وَنَفْسٍ وَمَا سَوَّاهَا. And by the soul and how I perfected, فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا, Allah has inspired them to know the rebellion and piety. And then what's your role then? قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. That the successful one is the one who purifies his soul. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I perfected your soul, I give it the ability to know the right from the wrong, but now you have to maintain it, to maintain the purity of it. وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. And the one who failure is the one who corrupted. So we have, as Justice Shazad always say, well, the computer has everything in it, but you are the one who can click on the right things or click in the wrong link. You are the one who can click and put virus in it, or you can click only on the right things and you don't have virus and corrupt your own computer. So the soul has this. You can corrupt the computer. You can also keep the computer pure and add only to it what good things. And this is why the Prophet ﷺ in the hadith, when he says, people sometimes, what is good? Is good, a righteous things is the one that you feel comfortable with. And the bad things, the evil things, the sinful things, you know it because you don't want anybody to know about it. If you're doing something bad, you don't want anybody to know about it. So it does not require, I don't need a treatise in fiqh to tell me if this is a halal or this is haram. You know it is halal or haram, automatically. If you're so proud of doing it, it will become, obviously at some point, there is corruption is going to happen that, people can corrupted the moral to the point that they cannot differentiate between halal and haram, or even the sin become the norm and the righteousness become the odd, It's like, I remember the example, like the Prophet ﷺ, when a young man came to him and said, I cannot handle it anymore. I have to commit, adultery or, sleep with women. And what the Prophet ﷺ tell him, oh, do you want this to happen to your sister? Do you have to happen to your mother? Do you have to do this? And he said, no. He said, so people do not want to do this too. And then pray for him. I said, I wonder now if you come to some people who are so liberal in this case, you said, what do you happen to this sister? He said, yeah, she does it all the time. So why so subhanAllah, sometimes your morality can become so corrupt that we have a problem. We can have a problem. But anyway, we're talking about the moral people, the innate people, because people get corrupted by the society, but naturally people are moral. So now, then Allah subhanahu give us one of these examples, of basically in the surah was a consequence of ignoring the moral codes. And they give us the example of people of Thamud, people of Thamud, when their prophet came to them, Prophet Saleh, and then they basically give them a miracle. They want a miracle. He gave them a miracle. Allah revealed for them a miracle, and they set a condition for them, and they slaughtered, basically the she, camel that Allah subhanahu have given them to them as a miracle. So they basically they cite that, and also remember, this all of them did it. No. But the trouble with it, if you stand and leave the immorality spreading and you're watching, you will be punished with it as well. Because that means there is a responsibility for every human being to work on the society to protect it. Because people, if they keep things going wrong, the whole society will be corrupted at the end if the people who are righteous people do not stand, against this, lack of righteousness. Inshallah, we'll go through Surah Al-Layl.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والليل إذا يغشى والنهار إذا تجلى وما خلق الذكر والأنثى إن سعيكم لشتى فأما من أعطى واتقى وصدق بالحسنى فسنيسره لليسرى وأما من بخل واستغنى وكذب بالحسنى فسنيسره للعسرى وما يغني عنه ماله إذا تردى إن علينا للهدى وإن لنا للآخرة والأولى فأنذرتكم نارا تلظى لا يصلاها إلا الأشقى الذي كذب وتولى وسيجنبها الأتقى الذي يؤتي ماله يتزكى وما لأحد عنده من نعمة تجزى إلا ابتغاء وجه ربه الأعلى ولسوف يرضى.
Now, Surah Al-Layl, it also started with an oasis, but the emphasis on it is that people, Allah subhanahu created people, and everyone has a different role in this life. But pursuing your role in this life doesn't mean that you, as long as you are in the right path, doesn't mean I am better than you or you're better than me. And the role has nothing to do with it. It is what you fulfill your purpose or not. That's the important part. And this is why Allah subhanahu started with an example for us. Says, وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَى, and by the night as it envelops. وَالنَّهَارِ إِذَا تَجَلَّى, and by the day as it unveils. Which is better? Is the day or the night? Can we say which is better? Do you want to live? Because if you said better, you said you want to live 100% in a day, or you want to live 100% at the night if you like it? Obviously none. We cannot say. Both of them has a service to do. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala خلق الذكر والأنثى, and I created the male and the female. So in that regard, إن سعيكم لشتى, that your effort, your role is diverse. The male is not better than the female. The female is not better than the male. She have a role, you have a role. As much as the day has a role, the night has a role. So everybody has this role. The question is what do you do with what within that role? What are you doing? You assign this role. What are you doing? Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that, yeah, there is people will facilitate for them achieve the role while they are righteous. But they need to do something too. فأما من أعطى واتقى وصدق بالحسنى فسنيسره لليسر. Remember in the other surah, Surah Al-Shams, we talk about that you have to purify your soul. Here also Allah emphasized the same point. Those people who give and mindful of Allah have taqwa and believe in the goodness, and believe in the goodness, believe in the promises of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, believe in the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, believe there is a heaven and a hell, believe that good deeds is going to be rewarded, then then we'll make his life easy, we'll facilitate for him his way in this life. Then the counterpart for this one is the one who is miser. وَأَمَّا مَنْ بَخِلَ وَاسْتَغْنَى. Whoever he become miser and consider himself self-sufficient. Remember we talked about the person who also self-sufficient, he has power and so on. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَمَّا مَنْ بَخِلَ وَاسْتَغْنَى, and whoever miser self-sufficient, فَسَنُيَسِّرْهُ, will make his life difficult. فَسَنُيَسِّرْهُ لِلْعُسْرَى, and then will facilitate for him a path of hardship. وَمَا يُغْنِي عَنْهُ مَالُهُ إِذَا تَرَدَّى, and whatever his wealth will not help him when he fails, when he falls in the hellfire. So wealth does not help you. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes in and said, but you have to have taqwa, because the guidance is up to us. إِنَّ عَلَيْنَا لَلْهُدَى, that we are the providing the guidance is coming from us. But you have to be prepared to accept it. How you prepare to accept it? By having taqwa, by being generous, by believing in the commands and the promises of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِنَّ عَلَيْنَا لَلْهُدَى وَإِنَّ لَنَا الْآخِرَةَ وَالْأُولَى, and belong to us, that this world belongs to us, the hereafter belongs to us. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give warning, now give us, contrast between people who deny hellfire, people who are basically who get warned of the hellfire, and people who get also, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bless them. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, فَأَنذَرْتُكُمْ نَارًا تَلَظَّى. Then warning of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I have warned you. إِنَّ عَلَيْنَا الْهُدَى, Allah guided, and إِنَّ لَنَا الْآخِرَةَ الْأُولَى, and then we have this life and the hereafter. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, okay, in the hereafter, I warned you about this blazing fire. Who is going to go in the blazing fire? لا يصلها إلا الأشقى. Is the one who enter it is the most wicked among you. Why? He is الذي كذب وتولى, because he denied the truth and turns away. And then who is going to avoid it? وَسَيُجَنَّبُهَا الْأَتْقَى. The one who is righteous will be spared from it. So may Allah make us all spared from this. And well, سيجنبها, avoid it, يعني spared from the hellfire. Yeah, you can translate it many ways. Yeah, and then, but why he did it? Why a person? One, we get spared from the hellfire. One, we get Allah subhanahu, we don't have to worry about the hellfire. الذي يؤتي ماله يتزكى. Still, money is amazing. Actually, in the Quran, the money is the test. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even sometimes when people seek, like in jihad, يجاهدون في سبيل الله, you jihad, when you go struggle for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even in war, what do? You sacrifice what? Your life. People, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, no, sacrifice money and life. The money comes ahead of life. Because sometimes you get so excited and emotional and willing to go fight. But when they tell you spend the money, you said, oh, wait a minute, let me count, now. So that's why you find, that's why the emphasis on it, because if you believe, and this is a fundamental part of the belief actually, do you believe that the money belongs to you, or you are a trustee of that money, but the money belongs to Allah? That's a big issue, because why people miser? Because they think, oh, if I spend it, the money is not going to come again. But if Allah has the infinite resources, why you think the money that came to you doesn't come from Him? And this is why Allah subhanahu yarzuqum, if you have a taqwa, Allah yarzuqum min haythu la tahtasib, that Allah will give you resources or wealth from sources that you never thought of. So that's why the whole issue of money is a very interesting in the Quran. And that's why Allah emphasized about who gives this money, who gives it from his wealth, why? To purify himself, because that's how you feel that you got rid of this. And this is why the companion of the Prophet and early, they used to seek wealth and they were very wealthy. But they said, the money is never in our heart. The money is in our hand. Yeah, we get it and we spend it, And then, وَمَا لِأَحَدٍ عِنْدَهُ مِنْ نِعْمَةٍ تُجْزَى, and when he give, he doesn't give because he expecting a return from anybody, that nobody, he's not doing it as a favor, he's want a favor in return. Only he doing it for one reason, إِلَّا ابْتِغَاءَ وَجْهِ رَبِّهِ, because he only seeking the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, And then Allah subhanahu, this person will be satisfied. فَسَوْفَ يَرْضَى. And see, if the king, if a super king, tell you, you are going to be satisfied. Come to me and I'll make you happy. You expecting he's going to give a palace and few cars and so on. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you are going to be satisfied. You can imagine. You cannot actually imagine what you are going to get. So by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among those who believe and always mindful of Him. And then they, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to get rid of this miserliness in our, souls. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت، وعافنا فيمن عافيت، وتولنا فيمن توليت، وبارك اللهم لنا فيما أعطيت، وقنا واصرف عنا شر ما قضيت، فإنك يا ربنا تقضي بالحق ولا يقضى عليك. اللهم ادخلنا برحمتك في عبادك الصالحين. اللهم اخرجنا من ظلمات الجهل والوهم إلى نور العلم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم اجعلنا ممن يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه. اللهم اكفنا بحلالك عن حرامك، وبطاعتك عن معصيتك، وبفضلك عمن سواك. اللهم بفضلك ورحمتك أعلي كلمة الحق والدين. اللهم انصر الإسلام وعز المسلمين يا أكرم الأكرمين. Oh Allah, spread your mercy upon us. Shower us with your blessings. Increase our knowledge, grant us forgiveness, and reward us with the company of the prophets in the Firdaus al-A'la. Oh Allah, purify our hearts, strengthen our faith, increase our knowledge, and make us benefit from what you have taught us. Oh Allah, forgive our parents and all our friends and relatives who have passed away. Oh Allah, make their graves garden from heaven and grant them the Firdaus al-A'la. Oh Allah, we have many of our friends and relatives who are sick. Oh Allah, grant to all of them full and speedy recovery. Oh Allah, guide our children, protect them, and make them righteous. Oh Allah, grant us the power and the ability that we may be grateful for the favors you have bestowed upon us and our parent, and that we may do righteous deeds that are pleasing to you. Oh Allah, we seek from you all of the good, whether we know it or we don't. And we seek your refuge from all evil, whether we know it or we don't. Oh Allah, we seek refuge in you from incapacity, from laziness, from fear, from greed, from poverty, and from the torment of the grave. Oh Allah, we have many of our brethren who are living under oppression and injustice. Oh Allah, heal their trauma, protect their helpless, and grant them lasting peace and prosperities. Oh Allah, we ask with every name you have elected for yourself, that none of us leave this gathering, but his pains have been relieved, his worries have been removed, his debts have been paid, his weaknesses have been concealed, his sins have been forgiven, and his needs have been fulfilled. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على خير المرسلين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.